got the All-Star game tonight. We've talked about the All-Star rankings for all the different Texas Rangers, how good a season that they've had. But who do you think is the most improved Rangers player this season?
I think the awesome deal here, Corey, is you can pick like 7 people and you'd say, yeah, I can see your case for that guy.
Here's because somebody said Dane Dunning, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case for me. I think Dane Dunning is kind of giving you. Maybe I'm wrong about this. He's kind of being the same dude he was last year. He's not an ace. He's not even your number 2 pitcher, but maybe he's good enough to be your de facto third if you needed him to be.
I think he's been way better than last.
But I think that he's like I still think he's kind of a 4-piece for me, and I'm happy to have him on my team doing that thing. But like, so you think and Mike, you've seen his stuff. You think, and he did talk about his hip injury a while back and how like him. I tried texting this to Derek while you were talking to him over the last week, and how he can extend his body a little more. He can lengthen it, and it allows his stuff to dance a little more. So maybe not having the hip injury is very helpful for him this year, and that could be the difference. But I think that Dane Dunning is just as solid this year as I thought he was last year. He had some kind of ups and downs last year that I kind of expected, but I think he's really solid. But most improved, I think Josh Jung. There's no other person for me to say than Josh Jung because he's a rookie and he couldn't stay healthy. So the improvement is the dude's been healthy for more games than he's ever played in his life, and he's hitting at a rookie of the year Major League Baseball player pace right now. So that's my most improved guy is Josh Jung.
I like that answer. It's interesting because you're going off of more what he did in the minor leagues and health, because last year he had a few major league stats, but very little. But I'll tell you what, Gunnar Henderson is starting to take off in Baltimore. So I know he won Rookie of the Month his first month and the second month, and he's a starting all-star. It looks like as this season's progressing, Gunnar Henderson could be the guy that was kind of favored in Vegas before the season. He's starting to take off where you're like, Gunnar Henderson could make a second half push at this Rookie of the Year thing against Josh Jung.
Do you think that Josh Jung can keep up the pace for the first half of the season, or do you think that's kind of tough?
It's tough. I mean, it's tough to be a 280 hitter with an 835 OPS your rookie year with limited minor league experience.
Add another 19 home runs on the other side.
Yeah, now you have to kind of, I would say, kind of take those numbers and times them by maybe 0.8.
Okay.
Because you're already 91 games in, so you're not at the halfway point. There's less games in the second half. But yeah, if he hits, let's say 35 home runs his rookie year, my gosh, yeah, you look at his RBIs at 56. If he ends the year with 100 RBIs and 35 runs batted in, that is freaking amazing.
Struck gold, boys.
So hopefully
it feels like it.
There's nothing that would indicate that he's going to slow down, except, to your point, Corey, is his body going to kind of fail him? Not that it's going to get hurt, but it's going to go, dude, I've never done this before. And he's just going to be tired. Last year, Jonah Heim was having not as good of a first half as he's having this year, but he's having a pretty good first half. And then his second half was a big struggle. And his body was like, dude, I've never been an everyday catcher for 6 months in the major leagues. And he just kind of really struggled. So hopefully for Josh Jung, his body doesn't go, hey, man, this is game 115 and we've never come close to this. So there is that concern, but hopefully he powers through it. For me, I'm going to go a little bit off of what people are probably going to guess, because I think a lot of people would say maybe either Leody Taveras or Ezekiel Duran. I think those are great choices. I'm going to go with the Rangers' best player, Corey Seager. He batted last year. He was a 245 hitter last year in the major leagues for the Texas Rangers. He's batting 353.
Insane.
If you look, he is 100 points higher than what he hit last year. And so I'm not saying this is the right choice. I'm saying there's a lot of choices. I'm just throwing out a guy that people might not think about right now.
I would not have thought about that. So
because
I'm
of the
intrigued.
money he's getting, right? Well, we expect him to do this because of the huge contract he got. But when you look at his numbers in the amount of games he's played, in 59 games, he has 52 RBIs.
Wow.
He has a over 1 OPS, a 1.026 OPS. His WAR in 59 games, if you look at games played for Marcus Semien, it's 91 because he's played in all of them. Marcus Semien's WAR for the year is 3.5. I hope this is right because I'm on ESPN and they can screw me over on WAR on this. But Seager's is 3.9. His WAR is 0.4 higher than Marcus Semien, who has played in 91 games to 59 games. So I think there's a lot of people to choose from. But I wanted to throw out a candidate that I think maybe people don't think too much about because of his status, because of his salary. But Corey Seager is one of the 5 best players in the American League this year in limited games.
2 things. One, I appreciate you saying his full name is not to confuse me. So thank you for that, Mike. Mm-hmm. And also, do you think he's finishing second for MVP then? I mean, like we talk about Shohei, you think that Seager's finishing second for this?
If he does, then the Rangers won the division.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Healthy.
Interesting.
I think here's the deal. I think if the Rangers end up being I know they only have a 2-game lead, so it wouldn't be like, oh my God, they blew a 2-game lead in the second half. But I think if the Rangers end up, let's say, winning 86 or 87 games and getting the final wild card spot, I think some people around baseball, and I think most of it will be here locally, will go, God, what a disappointment. And we'll have to look at it and go, well, we are in the wild card. We got a chance here. We got to win a 3-game series and get into kind of the playoffs where you get home field and you go back and forth in a 5-game series. But I do think Corey Seager has a chance to finish second, but you would have to have total health the rest of the way.
For sure.
And you would have to be around a 350 hitter with an OPS over 1. Shohei would still get all the first place.
Sure.
Points.
What I love about this is y'all had different answers. You said there's a lot of different viable options.
Name one.
Well, from the 817, Tavares by far. From the 806, Jung or Tavares. From the 903, Tavares. From another 903, Jankowski. From the 214, Jonah Heim, without a doubt. Oh, man, Dane Dunning is a good one, too. So, like, even in that one, they said without a doubt, they're like, maybe it is Dane Dunning. I'm going to go with Leody Tavares.
I like that pick.
There's a couple of things. First of all,
power.
Were we sure? Yes.
Yeah.
That's been a pretty stunning turn of events. Did you kind of think there was a shot he would be back down in the minors by now? And then somebody texted in, they think Evan Carter might be here, if not for Tavares. I don't know about that, but I think he has been a revelation this year.
And Bochy's, like, based on what we hear from him, he's like, we still are just scratching the surface on the kid. You know, he thinks there's a lot more to get out of him. Now, that could be Bochy, you know, propping up the kid for confidence purposes, or getting him to buy in on, hey, we got you this far. Let's take you even further to go be a great player. But yeah, I mean, my concern was not him being back down at this point, but more along the lines of I'm still waiting for second half. Mike, you talked about it with Tavares specifically. I want to see him do it for a full season now. You know, I want to see just like Jonah Heim, I want to see him do the full season at this level and go, man, we have something special. But yeah, Kevin, for the first half of this season, Leody Tavares has been exactly what you want in your center fielder.
Just real quick about that, Mike, is even if he were to falter,
right?
That's what happened to Adolis Garcia is in 21 when he had his breakout first half and he made the All-Star game. Then he fell off a cliff. And then we've seen since then, he has gotten to be a much better player. You
have a great answer. I think Leody should be there in the All-Star game over Julio Rodriguez, but I totally get why Julio Rodriguez is there. We just saw last night the crowd reaction to Julio Rodriguez. You're not getting that for Leody Tavares. So like, who's Leody Tavares is what would be the major question if he was on the All-Star team and got into the game. I'll give another one that I don't hear you have said yet on the fan text. Do you know that this is the 3rd most wins in any season for Nathan Eovaldi? He had 14 wins in 2015, and he had 11 wins in 2021. He is 10-3. That is the 3rd most wins in his career.
And that makes me feel oddly a little bit better because going into the season, I said Nathan Eovaldi was a guy.
Yeah, his ERA is 2.83.
He's been tremendous this year.
In 2018, his ERA was 3.33. Now, that was only in 12 games pitched. So if you look at 2019, he had a 5.99 ERA. If you look at the next year, 3.72, then 3.75. Last year, 3.87. So if you look at it, he's improved his ERA a full point from the last 3 years in Boston. And so I would say Nate Eovaldi stepping up. Here's the deal. I was talking to Gordon Beckham the other day. He's NBC broadcaster. He works for Chicago White Sox, Atlanta Braves, former big leaguer for 10 years.
Bins it.
And we were having a little discussion. Do we think Nate Eovaldi is going to keep his ERA under 3 at the end of the year? Because that would be pretty much almost a full point better. And these are things that have to happen. All these improvements, if you're going to win the majority of if you're going to play over 500 in the second half, Eovaldi has to keep his ERA around 2.83, and John Gray has to keep his ERA right around 3, and Leody Taveras and Ezekiel Duran Josh Jung have to keep doing these things, and Simeon and Seager have to be, the best second baseman, shortstop in the American League. Can all of these things keep up to hold off the Astros?
And I know that
that's another question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to add another question in
but
there.
I think you bring up a great point and really illustrate what we talked about all the different options. From the 9.72, Heim, he already has a career high in RBIs. Young, because his defense is awesome compared to what we expected. That is a really good point. His defense is way better. And then we see Zeke, Leody, Dane, Young. You brought up Seager, Adolis. There are a lot of options for why this first half has been so fun. And the flip side that I know people will bring up and we can talk about, later this week is maybe some of the downturn that you've seen in the last 2 weeks or so is because it was probably never feasible for all of those people to keep doing what they're doing. Not to say that some of them can't.
And it's just been really, I'll tell you, for John Gray to be able to throw 93 innings in the first half of the season, we were worried about his injury history last year and how healthy can he be? Because when he goes on the injured list and comes back, he's not like Adrian Beltre or how Corey Seager was this year. I know those are position players, but he just comes back and he just picks up where he left off. It takes him a start to kind of maybe get back into a little bit of a rhythm to get major league hitters out, So I look at this and I go,
he's halfway, Kevin or Mike, he's halfway to his all-time wins lead. He's got 6. His all-time is 12.
Yeah.
So he's getting, he could be, have his best. You're right. To have all the guys having career years at one time is an anomaly.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that often, but some of them are playing to as good as they can play.
And if enough of them keep it up, you don't need all of them to play at this level.
Gosh, I know we're out of time here, but it's I just keep thinking about Chris Young and going, he's looking at all of these things too. And he's going, yeah, this is who we are. All the guys we name that are having career years and doing these things.
Is it fool's gold?
Is this what they're going to do for the last 70 games of the year?
He's got to start thinking contract futures and stuff too with some of them.
And the trade situation too. Do I give up, some of these guys in the farm system to add to this team? Because if I add to this team and some of these guys go back to regress to the mean, regress who they've been in their career, how much does it help to get 2 right-handed relievers if all of a sudden my lineup doesn't hit the way that they hit for the majority of the first half?
That's what will dictate the success or failure of the second half of the Rangers season, I feel.
Yeah.